There's a saying I love: strength isn't something you can see when you look at someone. True strength isn't measured by what's visible on the outside. It's something deeper, something that reveals itself in the way you face challenges, rise after every fall, and refuse to let life's difficulties defeat you. Sometimes, you might feel like you're just surviving, doing the bare minimum to get through the day. But what you don't realize is that even in those moments, you're showing incredible strength. This kind of strength doesn't come from lifting weights or wearing a brave face. It comes from persistence, resilience, and the quiet determination to keep moving forward even when no one is watching. In today's video, we'll explore 7 signs of inner strength inspired by Stoic philosophy. These are not flashy traits, but essential life skills that define what it means to be truly strong. And most importantly, will guide you on how to practice these Stoic lessons in your daily life to find inner peace and lasting balance. If this resonates with you, share it with someone who needs a reminder of their own quiet power. A friend, a loved one, even a coworker. It's a small act that could make a big difference. So, are you ready to recognize and embrace the strength within you? Let's begin. 1. Emotional control. Imagine this: you've spent weeks preparing for an important project. Everything seems to be on track, and then suddenly, something goes wrong. Or perhaps, out of nowhere, someone you trust criticizes you unfairly. What would you do? Most people let emotions take over. They might react with anger, frustration, or even despair. It's natural, isn't it? But reacting in the heat of the moment often leads to regret. Let me tell you a story about my boss. He is not just a leader, but a master of emotional control. I've watched him handle moments of intense pressure with a calm that is almost unshakable. When a project of ours faced an unexpected setback, everyone else panicked. Some blamed circumstances, others blamed each other. But he remained composed. He asked questions, sought solutions, and guided the team with clarity and focus. It wasn't that he didn't feel the stress. He simply chose not to let it control him. This kind of control is not about suppressing emotions, but mastering them. As Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher, said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Emotional control is the ability to focus on what you can change while letting go of what you can't. It's the calm within the storm, the strength that turns chaos into clarity. Think about it. How often have you spoken words in anger that you wished you could take back? How many decisions made in frustration ended up making things worse? Emotions are powerful, and when unchecked, they can lead us astray. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." To live freely, you must guide your emotions with reason, not be ruled by them. The path to emotional control begins with small, intentional steps. When frustration or anger rises, pause. Take a deep breath and give yourself space to think. This moment of pause is powerful. It allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. Next, ask yourself a simple question: is this within my control? The Stoics believed in focusing only on what you can influence. If the answer is no, let it go. If yes, redirect your energy towards solving the problem, not fueling the emotion. Reflection is another key. At the end of the day, take a moment to think about situations where your emotions got the better of you. What triggered them? How could you handle them differently next time? This practice, though simple, builds awareness and resilience over time. Perspective is equally important. When faced with a challenge, ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? Often, what feels overwhelming in the moment becomes trivial in hindsight. Shifting your perspective reduces the emotional weight of temporary setbacks. Emotional control is not about being detached or emotionless. It's about understanding your feelings, choosing your responses, and remaining steady in the face of uncertainty. It's a practice, a commitment to responding with intention rather than impulse. With this mastery, you'll find that life's challenges become less daunting and more like opportunities to grow. True strength lies not in the absence of emotion, but in the ability to guide it wisely, step by step. 2. Taking responsibility. You are truly strong when you take responsibility for your actions. Imagine this scenario. You've promised a colleague that you'll finish part of a report by the weekend. The days pass quickly, and with other pressing tasks, you miss the deadline. What do? Many might be tempted to make excuses, blaming a heavy workload, unforeseen circumstances, or even other people. But taking responsibility means acknowledging your failure without hesitation. You own up to your mistake, apologize, and make it right. At first glance, this might seem like a small act, but it speaks volumes about your character. Responsibility is not about avoiding mistakes, it's about how you respond to them. As Seneca wisely noted, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Mistakes are inevitable. They mark the end of one attempt and the start of learning. What defines you is whether you use those moments to grow. Taking responsibility requires courage. It's not easy to admit when we're wrong, especially when the world often celebrates perfection. But let's face it, perfection is an illusion. We're all flawed, and we all stumble. True strength comes from facing those flaws head-on and choosing to make amends, rather than hiding behind excuses. I once worked with someone who exemplified this beautifully. She was leading a major project, and an oversight on her part delayed a key milestone. Instead of blaming her team or circumstances, she addressed the issue with transparency. She gathered the team, admitted her error, and presented a clear plan to resolve the setback. Her honesty inspired trust and respect, not just because she took ownership, but because she showed us how to lead with integrity. When you take responsibility, you claim ownership of your life. It's an empowering act as it reminds you that you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the author of your own story. Each mistake becomes a lesson, a stepping stone toward becoming wiser and stronger. The Stoics teach us that responsibility is a path to freedom. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you take responsibility, you free yourself from the weight of excuses and blame. You choose to act rather than be acted upon, shaping your future with deliberate intention. So how can we practice taking responsibility in everyday life? Start small. If you forget to return a friend's call, don't make excuses. Apologize sincerely and set things right. When faced with criticism, resist the urge to defend yourself immediately. Reflect on whether there's truth in the feedback, and if there is, act on it. Remember, responsibility also means acknowledging your successes. It's not just about owning mistakes. It's about celebrating the times when your actions made a positive difference. This balance keeps you grounded, allowing you to grow without being weighed down by self-doubt or inflated by pride. Life will present countless moments where you must choose between blame and accountability. The easy path is often to shift the burden elsewhere, but the stronger path, the Stoic path, is to accept the truth, however uncomfortable, and use it as a catalyst for growth. Taking responsibility doesn't just make you a better colleague, friend, or partner. It makes you a better version of yourself. It builds resilience, fosters trust, and helps you create a life of integrity and purpose. In a world that often avoids accountability, those who embrace it shine as examples of what true strength looks like. Word by word, action by action, responsibility is the foundation on which greatness is built. And it is through this foundation that you stand tall, no matter what life throws your way. 3. Facing fear. Fear is a universal emotion. It whispers doubts, paints worst-case scenarios, and tells you to step back. Yet the strongest among us don't run from fear. They face it head-on. They see fear not as an enemy, but as a teacher, a stepping stone toward growth and transformation. Consider this. You're offered an opportunity to speak in front of a crowd. Fear tells you, what if you embarrass yourself? You hesitate. But then, you take a deep breath and accept. In that moment, you've chosen growth over comfort. You've decided that the possibility of failure is worth the chance to learn and to stretch beyond your current limits. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic emperor, once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Fear often stems from how we perceive challenges, not the challenges themselves. Now think about this. You have an exam, an interview, or a difficult conversation ahead. Fear will try to stop you by highlighting what could go wrong. A strong person, however, recognizes this voice and chooses to act despite it. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward regardless of it. Let's look at smaller everyday moments. Imagine hesitating to express your opinion in a meeting for fear of judgment. You pause, then speak up. Or consider the hesitation to try a new hobby because you fear you won't excel. You try anyway. These are victories, however small, where fear is faced and strength is built. The Stoics believed in preparing for challenges before they arrived. Seneca advised, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Anticipate difficulties, but don't let them paralyze you. Instead, see them as opportunities to practice resilience. Practical strategies can help you face fears more effectively. Start with deep breathing. When fear grips you, steady your breath to calm your racing thoughts. Break tasks into smaller steps to make daunting challenges more manageable. Remind yourself that discomfort is temporary, but growth is permanent. Facing fear isn't about being fearless, it's about action. Each time you face what scares you, you become a little braver. You start to realize that fear is often an illusion, a barrier that dissolves when confronted. Life will always present challenges, but fear doesn't have to hold you back. See it for what it is, a signpost pointing toward growth. As Epictetus said, difficulties are things that show a person what they are. Embrace them. Take that next step, however small it may seem. Because on the other side of fear lies transformation, a stronger, wiser, and more resilient you. In every fearful moment, there is an invitation to rise. The choice is yours. 4. Embracing solitude. There's a unique kind of strength in being comfortable with solitude, a strength that is often misunderstood. In a world that constantly demands connection and thrives on distractions, being alone is sometimes seen as a weakness, a failure to engage. But solitude, when embraced, is a powerful ally. It forces you to confront yourself, to reflect, and ultimately to grow. Imagine a quiet evening, with no notifications buzzing and no one seeking your attention. At first, the silence feels unfamiliar, maybe even uncomfortable. But slowly, the stillness becomes a mirror, reflecting truths about yourself that the noise of daily life often drowns out. This is the power of solitude. It strips away external influences and helps you understand who you truly are. Epictetus once said, "He who is not satisfied with a little is satisfied with nothing." Solitude teaches you to be content with what you have and to find fulfillment within yourself, rather than seeking it in external validations. It's in these quiet moments that you learn self-reliance, building the kind of resilience that no one can take away. Unlike loneliness, which is marked by a longing for connection, solitude is a choice. It's an intentional decision to step away from the chaos and nurture your inner world. This distinction matters. Loneliness drains, solitude replenishes. Consider the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his soul. In solitude, you create space to listen to your thoughts, examine your values, and align your actions with your principles. It's a sacred pause in the rush of life, a chance to recalibrate. But solitude is not always easy. It requires courage to face your thoughts without distraction, to sit with your doubts and fears rather than escape from them. Yet, this process is transformative. It's in solitude that you build emotional strength, learning to soothe your anxieties and celebrate your victories without the need for external approval. Solitude also deepens your sense of purpose. When you step away from the expectations of others, you gain clarity about what truly matters to you. You're no longer living to meet societal demands. You're living in alignment with your own goals and values. This is the kind of authenticity that creates lasting fulfillment. In today's fast-paced world, solitude is often seen as a luxury. But for the Stoics, it was essential. They understood that time alone wasn't about retreating from life. It was about preparing for it. By taking the time to strengthen your inner self, you become better equipped to handle challenges, build relationships, and contribute meaningfully to the world. To embrace solitude is to embrace the strength within yourself. It's a reminder that you are enough, just as you are. As you sit in the stillness, you discover a profound truth. Strength isn't something you find in the world, it's something you cultivate within. In solitude, there's peace. In peace, there's clarity. And in clarity, there's power. The kind of power that allows you to face life's storms with calm and confidence. Choose to embrace it. 5. Staying positive in adversity. I have a younger sister who embodies an incredible resilience. No matter what happens in her life, she greets it with a smile and unwavering positivity. She doesn't deny her struggles or pretend that everything is perfect, but she chooses to see challenges as opportunities. It's no wonder people are drawn to her warmth. Her optimism inspires others to look for the silver lining in their own lives. Watching her, I often think to myself, this is what true strength looks like. Staying positive in adversity is not about ignoring pain or dismissing hardship. It's about choosing to focus on what you can learn, what you can change, and what remains good even in the darkest moments. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This mindset is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy and a testament to the power of perspective. Adversity is inevitable. Life, with its twists and turns, challenges even the best of us. But it is within these challenges that we discover who we truly are. When you maintain a positive outlook, you shift the narrative. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and instead become the author of your response. This doesn't erase the difficulty. It transforms how you engage with it. To stay positive in adversity is to practice gratitude. Gratitude reminds us that even amid struggle, there are blessings to count. It might be the support of a loved one, the lessons gained from failure, or even the simple fact that you've endured another day. Gratitude is not a denial of difficulty. It's a recognition that beauty exists alongside it. Another key to positivity is resilience, the ability to adapt and recover. Resilience grows each time you face a setback and chooses to try again. It teaches you that adversity is temporary, a passing storm that can't define you unless you let it. As Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Trials refine us, polishing the rough edges and revealing our inner brilliance. Positivity in adversity also comes from focusing on the present. Too often we dwell on what went wrong or fear what might come next. But the Stoics remind us to anchor ourselves in the now. Epictetus advised, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and you will have peace." When you embrace the present moment, you free yourself from the weight of the past and the worry of the future. Cultivating this mindset requires patience and intention. It means reframing negative thoughts, seeking solutions instead of dwelling on problems, and surrounding yourself with those who uplift rather than drain you. It also means acknowledging your emotions without letting them control you. Sadness, frustration, and fear are natural, but they don't have to dictate your actions. In adversity, positivity is a choice, a deliberate act of courage and strength. It doesn't mean pretending life is easy. It means recognizing that even when life is hard, there is still light to be found. And with that light, you can keep moving forward, one step at a time. So when challenges come, as they inevitably will, remember this: the storm will pass, but the strength and perspective you gain will remain. Hold on to that truth and let it guide you through whatever lies ahead. 6. Setting boundaries. True strength often lies in the choices we make to protect our time, energy, and peace. Setting boundaries is not about shutting people out. It's about knowing your limits and honoring them. It's about saying no when you need to and yes to the things that truly matter. In a world that often demands more than we can give, boundaries are the shield that keeps us from burning out. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus taught, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." To know yourself is to understand what you can give and what you need to keep for your well-being. Boundaries are a reflection of that self-awareness. Some might view setting boundaries as selfish, but the truth is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. When you give without limits, you deplete yourself, leaving little for others and even less for yourself. Saying no isn't rejection, it's an act of self-respect. Let me share a story. A close friend of mine once found herself overwhelmed by constant demands from colleagues, friends, and family. She rarely said no, fearing she would disappoint them. Over time, she grew exhausted and resentful. One day, she decided to make a change. She began setting clear boundaries, scheduling personal time, declining commitments she couldn't handle, and communicating her limits with kindness. The transformation was profound. Not only did she feel more energized, but the relationships that mattered most to her grew stronger. Boundaries don't just protect your energy, they also teach others how to respect you. When you set limits, you show the world that you value yourself. And in turn, people learn to value your time and presence. Boundaries also provide clarity. When you know where your limits are, decisions become easier. You no longer waste energy on things that drain you. Instead, you focus on what aligns with your goals and values. Marcus Aurelius advised, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Boundaries help you live with that kind of clarity and purpose. Practicing this kind of strength requires courage. There will be times when people push back, when they accuse you of being difficult or selfish. But remember, you're not setting boundaries to hurt others. You're setting them to protect yourself. And those who truly care about you will respect your limits, even if they don't always understand them. So how do you begin? Start by identifying what drains your energy and what replenishes it. Take note of the commitments that bring you joy and those that leave you feeling depleted. Then make a plan to prioritize the former and minimize the latter. Communicate your boundaries clearly and with kindness, but stand firm when they're tested. In setting boundaries, you don't just guard your time and energy, you create space for growth, joy, and meaningful connections. You choose what deserves your focus, and in doing so you align your life with your deepest values. The act of setting boundaries is not a wall. It's a doorway to a healthier, more balanced life. It's a declaration that your time and energy are precious and that you are worthy of the peace that comes from protecting them. This quiet strength is what allows you to thrive, no matter the demands of the world around you. 7. Lifting others up. Strength in empowering the community. True strength is not just about overcoming your challenges. It's about using your resilience to inspire and uplift others. A truly strong person doesn't compete to tear others down. They collaborate to build them up. They understand that lifting someone else doesn't diminish their light. It makes it shine even brighter. Think of a time when someone believed in you, even when you doubted yourself. Maybe it was a teacher who encouraged you, a friend who reminded you of your worth, or a mentor who pushed you to aim higher. Their belief in you became the spark you needed to persevere. This is the power of lifting others. When you support someone, you create a ripple effect of strength and confidence that extends far beyond that single moment. The Stoics remind us of the interconnectedness of humanity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." When you help others thrive, you enrich not only their lives, but also your own. A community built on mutual support becomes stronger together, weathering challenges that no individual could face alone. But lifting others isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as listening without judgment or offering words of encouragement. These small acts of kindness can transform someone's day, even their perspective on life. Let me share a story about myself. A few years ago, I worked with someone who was struggling with a critical project. They were overwhelmed, doubting their skills, and unsure how to proceed. Instead of focusing on their challenges, I decided to step in. I sat down with them, offered constructive feedback, and helped break the tasks into manageable steps. Together, we worked through the challenges, refining each detail with care and determination. The result was remarkable. Not only did the project succeed, but it also transformed how my colleague viewed their own capabilities. They gained confidence, and our professional relationship grew stronger, built on mutual trust and respect. That moment taught me something invaluable. Lifting someone else doesn't just help them succeed. It fosters collaboration, strengthens connections, and creates shared victories that uplift everyone involved. The act of lifting others is not self-sacrifice. It's a demonstration of strength and empathy. It requires you to set aside ego and see the potential in others, even when they can't see it themselves. As Epictetus said, "Be helpful to those who are vulnerable, for you may one day find yourself in need of assistance." Supporting others is not only a gift to them, but also a practice of humility and gratitude. Sometimes, lifting others means stepping back and letting them take the spotlight. Strong individuals don't need constant recognition. They find fulfillment in the achievements of those they've supported. This kind of generosity is rare, but it's also transformative. It builds communities where success is shared, not hoarded, and where collaboration replaces competition. To lift others, start with small, intentional actions. Celebrate someone's achievements without envy. Offer encouragement when someone faces a challenge. Share your knowledge and experience freely, knowing that wisdom grows when it is shared. The Stoic perspective reminds us that life is a shared journey. Seneca advised, "No man can live happily who has regard for himself alone and turns everything to his advantage. You must live for your neighbor if you would live for yourself." By lifting others, you create a legacy of strength that extends beyond your own life. Ultimately, lifting others is an expression of your inner strength. It's a commitment to building something greater than yourself, a community where everyone can thrive. As you empower others, you reaffirm your belief in the collective power of humanity, proving that true strength lies not in isolation, but in connection. This is the essence of lifting others, a quiet, powerful act of courage that strengthens bonds, creates opportunities, and leaves a lasting impact. In lifting others, you rise with them. As we draw this journey to a close, remember that strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you cultivate every day. True inner strength lies in mastering emotional control, taking responsibility, facing fears, embracing solitude, staying positive in adversity, setting boundaries, and lifting others. These aren't just signs of resilience. They are practices that shape a fulfilling and meaningful life. Stoic philosophy reminds us that the power to grow stronger lies within our reach. Each moment offers a choice: to react impulsively or respond wisely, to focus on what you can control, and to approach life's challenges with grace and determination. The beauty of these lessons is that they are timeless and universal. They can guide you through the chaos of modern life, offering clarity and peace in even the most trying moments. I encourage you to take these lessons to heart. Practice them daily, even in small ways. When you encounter difficulties, remind yourself that every challenge is an opportunity to grow. When you help someone else rise, you strengthen the community around you. These practices will not only build your resilience, but also inspire those around you to find their quiet strength. And now, I'd love to hear from you. How have you faced adversity? Or how do you practice strength in your daily life? Share your stories in the comments below. Let's learn from and inspire one another. Together, we can grow stronger. Have you ever let one moment of anger ruin your entire day? One insult, one rude comment, and suddenly you're hijacked by emotion, thrown off course, and saying things you later regret. Why does it feel like we have no control when emotions flare? And more importantly, how do we take that control back? The Stoics believed that your mind, not other people, not circumstances, is your true battlefield. They taught that power doesn't lie in reacting louder, but in not reacting at all. In choosing calm over chaos, in refusing to hand over your peace to someone who doesn't deserve it. This video will show you exactly how to never get angry or upset with anyone or anything again. Not by suppressing your feelings, but by rewiring the way you respond. You'll learn actionable, battle-tested Stoic techniques to help you pause before reacting, detach from what doesn't serve you, and master your emotions like a warrior of the mind. You're not weak for struggling. You're human. Every man has faced the heat of anger and the sting of disrespect, but few ever learn to rise above it. That's where you change. So if you've ever felt exhausted from being emotionally hijacked, this is for you. Like this video, subscribe for more Stoic strategies, and share it with someone who needs their peace back. Because once you understand Stoicism, you don't just manage anger, you become untouchable. And that changes everything. 1. Reframe emotional outbursts as habits you can unlearn. You weren't born angry. You weren't born snapping at people in traffic, slamming doors, or replaying conversations in your head for hours. That reaction, what feels automatic now, was learned. Picked up over the years of stress, pride, and a world that constantly tells men they need to be tough, loud, and dominant. But here's the truth. Real strength isn't loud. It's silent. And the most powerful man in the room is the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't bark back, and doesn't let his peace be disturbed by small things. Anger is not just a feeling, it's a habit. And like any habit, it can be broken. But first, you have to see it for what it is. A chain reaction that only keeps going because you feed it. A guy cuts you off, your boss talks down to you, your partner says something sharp, and before your brain catches up, your mouth fires. That's the cycle. And most men stay trapped in it their whole lives, believing it's just who they are. But the Stoics saw it differently. They didn't see anger as a personality trait. They saw it as a weakness in disguise. Epictetus once said, "Any person capable of anger is a slave to it." That's harsh, but it's true. When you react blindly, you hand your power to the very thing that triggered you. You become predictable, easy to manipulate, and emotionally exhausted. Now, picture this. You're standing in line at the DMV. You've already been waiting an hour. Someone cuts right in front of you, bold as day. You feel it rise. Tight chest, clenched jaw, that urge to bark back. That moment right there, that's your battlefield. You either fight the same old war you always lose, or you pause and ask one simple question. Will getting angry make this better? You know the answer. You've lived the answer. You've lashed out before. And what did it bring you? Nothing but more stress, more regret, and more distance from the man you're trying to become. This is where Stoicism shifts everything. You don't need to suppress your feelings. You need to step outside them. Watch them like clouds passing through the sky. Acknowledge them, but don't let them drive. The mind, the rational self, that's the driver. That's the power Stoics built through discipline. Most men go through life thinking their anger is justified. That's proof they care. That staying calm means weakness or apathy, but it's the opposite. Anyone can blow up. That's easy. What's hard, what takes discipline, maturity, and real backbone is to stay composed when everything around you is trying to shake you. When someone disrespects you and you don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you flinch, that's dominance. When life throws chaos at you and you stand still, that's control. So what do you do next time that fire rises in your chest? You pause, you breathe, you remind yourself, this anger is a habit. I don't need to wear it anymore. And then you walk away, not because you're weak, but because you've grown too strong to waste your energy on things that don't deserve it. You're not here to be triggered. You're here to take your power back. That begins not with the world changing, but with you responding differently. Respond like a man who owns his mind. Respond like a Stoic. 2. Control yourself instead of trying to control others. It's easy to explode, easy to raise your voice, throw a jab, or storm out of the room. That's what most men do when they feel disrespected. Lash out to regain some sense of power. But that kind of power is fake. It burns hot, fades fast, and always leaves you feeling weaker than before. Real control doesn't come from dominating someone else. It comes from mastering yourself in the heat of the moment. Anger tricks you. It tells you that if you don't react, you're weak. That if someone pushes you, you need to push back harder. That silence is surrender. But think back. How many times has getting angry actually solved anything? You yell, and the other person yells louder. You prove your point, but lose the relationship. You win the argument, but lose sleep over what you said. And in the end, you feel drained, because you were never really in control. You were just reacting. Now imagine this. You're in a meeting at work. Your manager criticizes your idea in front of the whole team, unfairly, even arrogantly. You feel the heat rising. Every part of you wants to fire back, defend your name, shut him down, but something stops you. A voice inside says, if I respond now, I'll only make this worse. So you pause, you breathe, you say, thanks for the feedback, I'll revisit it, and you move on. Later in private, you speak with clarity, not emotion. That is control. That is a strength. And that is Stoic. Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The Stoics didn't believe in letting pride run the show. They believed in response over reaction, clarity over chaos. They understood what many men still don't. Trying to control other people is a losing game. What you can control, and always could, is how you choose to show up. The mistake most men make is believing that silence means weakness, that walking away makes you look less of a man. But think about the last time someone lost it in front of you. Did you respect them more, or did they lose power in your eyes? Rage is loud, but respect is quiet. When you stay calm in the face of provocation, you become untouchable. And that unnerves people far more than shouting ever could. The Stoic path doesn't mean you never speak up. It means you choose how and when you speak, on your terms, not your angers. When you learn to delay your reaction, to let the emotion pass before you act, you create space. And in that space, you find wisdom. You make better choices. You keep your self-respect intact. Next time someone disrespects you, don't take the bait. Let them act small. You stay solid, not because you're afraid to respond, but because you're choosing not to fall into their storm. You rise above it, not for them, but for yourself. That's what control really looks like. It's not about having the last word, it's about having the last piece. So start today. Don't try to control the room. Control your breath, your words, your face, your energy. You'll walk out of every conflict with something most men never find, your dignity untouched. And that's a win no one can take from you. 3. Build calm like a muscle, through daily practice. You can't expect to be calm in chaos if you've never practiced calm in silence. That's the part most men miss. They wait until they're angry, disrespected, or overwhelmed, and only then do they try to control themselves. But emotional strength doesn't show up on command. It's trained, it's earned. It's built in the quiet moments when no one's watching. Just like your body won't grow stronger without consistent training, your mind won't suddenly hold steady under pressure unless you've been working on it daily. Self-mastery isn't a switch you flip, it's a skill you forge. Think about a man who's never touched weights suddenly walking into a gym and trying to lift 300 pounds. He gets crushed. The same goes for your emotions. If you never train yourself to pause, to breathe, to sit with discomfort instead of reacting, then the first time life hits you hard, you fold. Not because you're weak, but because you're untrained. Now imagine this. You're home after a long day. Your kid spills juice on your laptop. Your instinct fires. You want to yell, but something clicks. You've been working on this. Instead of reacting, you pause. You breathe. You say, let's clean it up. That moment feels small, but it's not. That's a rep. That's strength in action. And that rep will serve you in far bigger storms. Stoicism isn't a philosophy built for monks on a mountain. It was designed for real life, for soldiers, leaders, workers, fathers, people surrounded by stress, noise, and conflict. It teaches that peace isn't found in isolation. It's found by training your mind to stay still in the middle of the storm. And that training starts with the little things. Waking up early to reflect, journaling your thoughts before bed, choosing silence over sarcasm when someone frustrates you. These aren't empty rituals, they're workouts for the soul. The mistake most men make is waiting for the fire to prove they can stay cool. But that's not how it works. You prepare in advance. You build rituals that strengthen your focus, deepen your breathing, and sharpen your awareness. Because when pressure hits, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote every day, reflecting on what triggered him, what tested him, and how he could respond better tomorrow. Not because he was weak, but because he wanted to grow stronger. And Epictetus, once a slave, taught that discipline begins not in the grand gestures, but in the daily control of thought and emotion. They practiced calm as a habit, not a reaction. So if you want to stop being the man who always loses it when things go wrong, start being the man who prepares before they do. Sit with your discomfort instead of reaching for a distraction. Notice your breath when you're tempted to speak. Reflect at the end of the day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. These aren't small acts. They're your emotional weightlifting. No one's born a Stoic, and no one wakes up with perfect self-control. But the man who commits, who repeats, who trains, he becomes untouchable. You build that calm like you build anything else, with effort, with practice, with time. So don't wait for the world to test you. Test yourself every day, because the man who trains his mind in stillness wins when the noise comes. 4. Let go of what doesn't serve you. You had your whole day planned. Wake up early, hit the gym, knock out your tasks, and feel on top of everything. Then the traffic hits. Someone canceled a meeting last minute. Your boss piles more on your plate with zero notice. Now the plan is wrecked and frustration builds fast. That tightness in your chest, that heat in your throat, it's not from the event. It's from your resistance to it. You're not angry because things changed. You're angry because you thought they wouldn't. But the world doesn't care about your schedule. Life doesn't ask for your permission before it changes course. And the longer you cling to how you wanted things to go, the more you suffer. That's not weakness. That's attachment. An attachment left unchecked becomes a trap. A man who needs everything to go right to stay calm is a man who will never know peace. Letting go isn't giving up. It's recognizing what's not worth holding. It's learning to tell the difference between what's in your hands and what's slipping through your fingers, no matter how tightly you grip. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They didn't waste energy on traffic, rude people, or changing plans. They saved that energy for what they could actually shape: their character, their mindset, their response. So when something throws off your day, don't immediately react. Step back. Ask yourself, is this in my control? If the answer is no, don't fuel it with your attention. Let it pass like bad weather. You're not ignoring it. You're choosing not to drown in it. That's not denial. That's discipline. The common mistake most men make is believing that control means forcing things to fit. But real control is about adaptation. Power isn't making the world obey. It's staying calm when it doesn't. That's why Stoicism isn't passive. It's precise. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop wasting care on what can't be changed, and that shift right there frees up your strength for what truly matters. Now picture this. You're in a parking lot. A stranger backs into your car, leaves a dent, then shrugs like it's no big deal. You want to erupt. You want justice. But after that first wave of emotion, you pause. You ask yourself, will raging at him fix the dent? Will it make him care more? No. So you do the paperwork, you stay calm, you protect your energy, and you drive away. Not just with a damaged bumper, but with your dignity intact. That's the move. That's the win. Not because you let him off easy, but because you didn't let him take anything more than metal. He doesn't get your peace, your night, your health. You kept those. Because you let go of what wasn't worth keeping. Stoic strength doesn't shout. It doesn't cling. It releases. And in that release, there's real control. So start asking yourself more often, is this mine to hold? If it's not, let it go. Because the man who knows what to carry and what to drop doesn't get angry at every storm. He walks through it, calm, clear, and unshaken. And that man, no matter the chaos, remains in control. 5. Turn conflict into a personal test of mastery. You can't avoid conflict. Not if you're alive, working, dealing with people, building something real. Someone will challenge you, misunderstand you, talk down to you, or push your limits. That's just life. But the way most men approach conflict is reactive. They see it as a threat to their pride, a moment to win or prove something. So they tense up, raise their voice, and try to dominate. But in doing so, they miss what conflict really is. It's not a threat to your power. It's a mirror of it. Conflict reveals where you still lose control, where your ego still takes the lead. You're still a slave to other people's opinions. And this is exactly why the Stoics treated every confrontation, every insult, every unfair moment, not as a problem, but as practice. They believed life constantly gives you reps. Opportunities to strengthen your mind by refusing to be pulled down by the noise. Picture this. You're standing at the counter of a hardware store. You've been waiting patiently while the clerk helps someone else. Then a guy behind you jumps ahead, waves a receipt, and demands to be served first. He raises his voice. Everyone turns. And there you are, heart racing, jaw tight, ready to explode. But you don't. Instead, you step back internally. You ask yourself, what's actually at risk here? My time, my ego, or my peace? And right there you choose, not to roll over, but to rise above. That's not weakness. That's power with precision. The mistake many men make is thinking calm equals surrender. Not reacting means letting people walk over you, but letting your emotions hijack you. That's giving your power away. The Stoic doesn't avoid the confrontation. He just doesn't let it control him. He speaks when needed, but not with fire. He speaks with clarity. Because he knows the only thing worse than being disrespected is lowering yourself to match that disrespect. The more you see every challenge as a test, not of who's right, but of who's in control, the more unshakable you become. Conflict turns from a battlefield into a gym. You stop wasting energy on petty arguments. You stop letting small people shrink your world. And instead, you use each moment to grow your strength. That's how Marcus Aurelius lived. He ruled an empire, faced betrayal, war, and politics, yet chose stillness. He didn't chase revenge. He chased integrity. Because he understood that every interaction is a chance to practice self-mastery. Not once in a while, but every day. And the men who take that approach don't just survive conflict, they walk through it unchanged, untouchable. So the next time someone pushes your buttons, try this. Instead of snapping back, say nothing. Instead of proving a point, protect your energy. Instead of letting their chaos become yours, become the calm they can't reach. Not to look good, not to be liked, but because you've trained yourself to rise above what isn't worth your fall. You're not here to react to every insult. You're here to sharpen your edge. And every moment of conflict is a chance to do exactly that. Respond with control. That's how you win. And every time you do, you prove something far greater than dominance. You prove you've mastered the hardest battlefield of all, yourself. 6. Stay present, because your imagination makes you angry. It's not the moment that makes you angry. It's your mind racing 10 steps ahead or spiraling 10 steps behind. You're not mad about what someone said. You're mad about what they meant, what might happen next, what it says about you, what you should have said back. That noise in your head? That's where most of your suffering comes from. And until you learn to stop living in the past or the future, you'll keep losing control in the only moment that matters, now. Men don't talk about this much, but it happens all the time. You get cut off in traffic. That's 3 seconds of inconvenience. But in your head, you replay it for the next 30 minutes. You imagine confronting the guy, yelling and showing him who's boss. You carry that weight into your next call, your next meeting, even your dinner table. The moment's gone, but your mind drags it like a chain. And that's how small things become heavy burdens, because you never learn to let them go at the moment they happened. Stoicism cuts through this mental clutter like a blade. It says, you only ever have now, and now there is no insult, no imagined outcome, no history to fix. There is only breath, action, choice. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to snap back to the present every time his thoughts wandered. He reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Not tomorrow, not after you win the argument. Right now. The common trap is believing your thoughts are facts. That's just because you're thinking it, it must be true. But most of what you react to isn't real, it's imagined. The Stoics understood that an untamed mind is the root of unnecessary pain, that your imagination, if left unchecked, will build enemies that don't exist and arguments that never happened. Try this instead. You're walking into a conversation with someone you don't like. You're already bracing for conflict, expecting disrespect. That tension? It's not from anything they said. It's from the future you've already created in your head. Stop. Come back. Be in the moment. Maybe they will say something rude. Maybe they won't. Either way, you'll handle it better from a grounded mind than a racing one. This is why the practice of mindfulness isn't just spiritual fluff. It's a tactical advantage. It keeps your head clear when your instincts want chaos. You don't have to sit cross-legged for an hour to get it. You just have to notice your breath, your posture, the sound in the room, the feeling of your feet on the ground. Every time your mind wants to spin stories, you bring it back. You train it, like a muscle, to stay here. And when you do, you stop overreacting to things that aren't even happening. You stop reliving what you can't fix. You stop rehearsing what you don't need to say. You start responding, not from anxiety, not from fear, but from presence. That's where your calm lives. That's where your power lives. You don't control what has already happened. You don't control what hasn't happened yet, but you do control now. And if you can own now, even just for a few breaths, you're not just practicing stoicism, you're living free. And that's the kind of strength no one can take from you. 7. Drop the weight of resentment before it ages you. Resentment doesn't just poison your mind, it wears your body down. You've seen it. The man who looks tired even when he's rested, who walks heavy even when he carries nothing, who flinches at kindness because he's used to betrayal. That weight isn't physical, it's emotional. And the longer you hold on to anger, blame, and bitterness, the more it eats away at your energy, your clarity, your ability to feel light again. Most men don't even notice it happening. They think they've moved on just because they're silent. But silence isn't healing. And just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean it isn't shaping how you speak, how you trust, how you live. That grudge you're holding from 5 years ago, it's on your shoulders now, in your sleep. How fast you snap when someone barely crosses a line. And that's exactly why the Stoics viewed forgiveness not as some moral obligation, but as self-preservation. Letting go isn't about making peace with what was done to you. It's about refusing to let it keep owning you. Because every ounce of resentment you hold robs you of peace in the present. And no one deserves that kind of power over your life, not even the person who wronged you. Epictetus said, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus can get the better of my will." That's what forgiveness is. Not approved, not forgetting, but refusing to be shackled from the inside. Think of a moment when someone crossed the line. Maybe they lied, left, or embarrassed you in front of others. You told yourself you'd never forget, and maybe you didn't. But every time you think of them, your stomach tightens, your energy drops, your peace leaves. That's not a strength. That's self-inflicted punishment. You're reliving what they did long after they've forgotten it. And that's the trap, thinking that holding on protects you, when in fact it weakens you. The Stoic doesn't hold anger like armor. He releases it like fire in his hands, because he knows it burns the one who carries it most. Forgiveness doesn't mean trusting them again. It means reclaiming space in your heart for something better, something lighter. And it starts with one choice. Stop feeding the story of what they did. Every time you replay the offense, you reinforce the wound. So stop rehearsing pain. Start protecting your energy. You're in the break room. Someone throws a slick comment. You know it's a jab. You could clap back. You could carry it home. Talk about it with your buddy. Let it replay in your mind till midnight. Or you could smile. Not because you're weak, but because you're done carrying trash that isn't yours. You breathe. You walk out. And you leave the weight behind. That's not passivity. That's power under control. That's knowing what's worth your energy and what isn't. And when you start dropping resentment, you'll feel it. In your posture, in your sleep, in how clear your thoughts become. Forgiveness isn't a favor to them, it's a gift you give to yourself. Let it go, not for their sake, but so you can stop dragging your past into your present. You've got more life ahead than behind. Make space for it. Because the man who travels light moves faster, breathes deeper, and lives free. And you can be that man if you're ready to put the weight down. 8. Pause before you react. It changes everything. It happens faster than you think. One sentence, one tone, one offhand remark, and you're already halfway to raising your voice or slamming the door. By the time you realize you're angry, your reaction has already taken over. That's how most men live, on autopilot, pushed by outside triggers, pulled by inner tension. And in that split second between the spark and the fire, they give away their power. But what if that split second was the place you took it back? Stoicism begins in the pause, the space between what happens and what you do next. That's the battlefield, not the argument, not the insult. The real fight is in that breath, that tiny delay where you choose, do I react like I always do, or do I respond like the man I'm trying to become? Most don't even see that space. Their emotions outrun their awareness. But once you start recognizing it, you realize how much control you actually have and how often you've been throwing it away. Let's say you're at home. Your teenage son talks back again. That tone, that look in his eyes, it stings. You're about to snap. But something holds you. You take one breath, then you say, I'm going to respond in a minute. That move right there, that's power. Not silence out of fear, but restraint with purpose. You've just interrupted a cycle that's played out for years in millions of households, and now you're writing a new one. The mistake is believing that if you don't react fast, you'll lose respect. That hesitation means weakness. But what you gain in those 2 seconds is clarity. You give your brain time to process, to decide, to aim. That's what the Stoics trained for, not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of timing. Marcus Aurelius didn't say don't feel. He said, don't act unless it serves the greater good. And that good often starts with silence. We live in a world that rewards fast reactions. Text back now, respond now, defend yourself instantly. But emotional discipline isn't about speed, it's about accuracy. Saying the right thing at the right time with the right tone. And you can't do that if you let adrenaline do the talking. You need to stop, to breathe, to name what you're feeling before it becomes something you regret. It doesn't take years of meditation. It takes one choice. When the pressure hits, you pause. You tell yourself, I don't need to react yet. You walk to the other room. You take 10 deep breaths, you ask, what's the outcome I want here? And then, only then you speak. You move, you act, not from ego, from intention. The Stoic man isn't cold, he's clear, he's not slow, he's steady. He doesn't repress what he feels, he commands it. Because in that pause he sees more. He sees the consequences, he sees the opportunity, and he steps into both with a steady hand. So from this point forward, treat every moment of tension as your training ground. When your heart starts to race, when your face heats up, when your fists want to clench, don't move. Not yet. Let the moment settle, then decide how to own it. Because the man who masters the pause doesn't just win the argument, he wins himself. And that is a victory worth choosing again and again. Now you know, you are not a prisoner of your emotions. You are not bound to anger, resentment, or the need to react. What the Stoics taught, what men like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus lived, is that calm is not given, it's earned. Self-control is not about denial, it's about discipline. And peace isn't weakness, it's power, sharpened in silence. We've explored how anger is a habit that can be unlearned, how real strength comes from mastering yourself, and how emotional calm is built like a muscle through small, daily choices. You've seen that letting go is not surrender, but wisdom. Staying present is the best defense against stress. And that in every moment of tension, you have a window, a pause, where your character is forged. This isn't theory, this is your life. It's in the way you respond to your partner, how you hold your ground in meetings, how you walk away from noise and stand firm in your values. Each moment is a chance to practice. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. This is how you stop being triggered by everything and start becoming untouchable. So I invite you, begin with today. Train your breath, hold your words, master your pause, and build a mind that cannot be shaken by what it cannot control. If this message spoke to you, share your story in the comments. What moment tested you recently? What have you learned from holding back? We learn by reflecting, and we grow by helping others do the same. Because in the end, the man who can master himself, his thoughts, his reactions, his energy, is the man who owns his life. And that is the kind of strength that endures. It's not what happens to you that harms you, but how you choose to deal with it. Epictetus. Ever feel like your mind's racing, you're talking more than you mean to, and focusing on everything except what truly matters? In a world drowning in noise, where quick opinions are mistaken for strength and knee-jerk reactions pass for smarts, plenty of guys have lost their footing. They're burned out, scattered, and disconnected from their own power. But the Stoics figured it out long ago. Real strength isn't about doing more, it's about doing better. It's not about shouting louder, it's about knowing when to stay quiet. It's not about thinking endlessly, it's about steering your thoughts with purpose. In this video, you'll discover how Stoic philosophy for men can help you regain your focus, toughen your mind, and act with intention. You'll learn to control what's in your power, master your inner voice, and build a presence that speaks louder than words, even in silence. You're not alone if you sometimes feel like you're slipping under a flood of distractions, but today could be the start of finding your way back. Stick with me, because when you think less, talk less, and focus more, the world doesn't own you. You own it. Hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next steps in this quiet but powerful transformation. 1. Thoughts aren't facts. Sometimes a single thought can wreck your whole day. A quiet line that creeps into your head like a shadow. I'm not good enough. Things will never change. What if it all goes wrong? Before you know it, you're living as if those words are carved in stone. But they're not. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus said it's not the events that mess us up, it's the judgments we make about them. Yet how often do we mistake a passing thought for the truth? How often do we let an unchallenged idea hold us hostage? Picture yourself at a train station. Every thought is a train rolling by. Some carry regret, others anger, others fear. But you don't have to hop on any of them. You can watch them pass. You can breathe. You can stay on the platform. This simple act of observing without reacting, a daily Stoic practice, is one of the sharpest tools against inner chaos. When you get tangled up in your thoughts, you lose control. But when you learn to step back and watch them, they lose their grip. They fade. I remember a late-night talk with a guy I worked with, a team leader everyone respected for his calm. He admitted that every morning he woke up with a knot in his stomach. Not because of what was happening around him, but because of what his mind whispered the second he opened his eyes. You're not doing enough. You're screwing up. For years, he lived as if those thoughts were verdicts. Then he stumbled across Marcus Aurelius, and something clicked. He realized he could create distance. He could say, I'm having the thought that I'm screwing up. That small shift in words changed everything. It wasn't him failing anymore. It was just a passing idea. Like a cloud, like smoke, and if you don't feed the fire, the smoke clears. This isn't about denying your thoughts or forcing yourself to think positive. That's just another way of dodging reality. It's about recognizing that your mind churns out thoughts automatically. Not all of them are useful. Many are just leftovers from old experiences, inherited fears, or unfiltered reactions. And you are not those thoughts. You're the space where they show up. You're the one who decides which thoughts to nurture and which to let drift. The Stoic practice starts with that awareness. You don't need a cabin in the woods or a meditation retreat, just a few minutes a day to pause and notice. When a thought stings, don't react. Don't push it away. Don't cling to it. Just watch it. Ask yourself, is this really true? Do I have proof? Does this make me stronger or weaker? If it's not serving you, let it go. Not with anger, but with calm, like dropping a rock you don't need to carry anymore. Bit by bit, you carve out inner space, and in that space, something no thought can fake emerges. Clarity, quiet, steady strength. It's not magic, it's discipline. It's coming back, again and again, to the present moment, to the platform, to you. The Stoics didn't aim to stop thinking, they aimed to tame it. They knew an unguided mind is like a runaway horse. It drags you where you don't want to go. But a trained mind becomes your ally. It lights the path. And most importantly, it lets you walk it freely. So next time a voice in your head says you can't, you're not enough, or it's too late, breathe. Don't board that train. Stay with yourself. Because your thoughts don't define you. What you do with them does. That's the real strength. Quiet, internal, unshakable. 2. The power of saying less. The stronger your soul, the less it needs to justify itself. Marcus Aurelius. Some silences make people squirm. Others command respect. In a world where fast talking is mistaken for smarts and loudness drowns out truth, choosing to say less is an act of defiance, not against others but against your own ego. The ego always wants the last word. It wants to clap back to be heard. But you're not here to prove anything. You're here to master yourself. There was this guy in our office meetings everyone steered clear of. Not because he was a jerk, but because he was different. He didn't talk unless he had to. He listened. He watched. And when he finally spoke, every word hit like it was carved in stone. Not because he raised his voice, but because he didn't waste a syllable. He didn't argue. He didn't explain himself. He only spoke when he had something worth saying. That made him unforgettable. The Stoics saw this as a virtue. A wise man doesn't talk out of habit. He talks by choice. He doesn't jump into verbal sparring because he knows some battles are won by staying out of them. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul grows stronger when it stays calm amid the world's noise. That's the challenge. Holding your ground when everything around you screams, provokes, and demands a response. Saying less isn't about biting your tongue out of fear. It's about choosing when to speak and when to hold back. It's knowing that not every jab deserves a counterpunch. Not every taunt needs a comeback. Not every moment calls for an explanation. When you respond to everything, you hand your energy to the world. You scatter yourself. You unravel. But when you choose silence with purpose, you sharpen your mind. You become a man who doesn't react, he acts. The Stoics weren't about people-pleasing. They were about living with virtue. And part of that virtue is not saying more than you need to. It's measuring your words like a fighter measures his punches. Because an extra word can cut deeper than you meant. And a well-timed pause can diffuse a bomb. Think back to the last time you spoke on impulse. Maybe it was a jab, a defense, an opinion you didn't need to share. Was it worth it? Or did it leave you hollow, patching the gap with regret? Silence, on the other hand, never regrets. It buys you time. It gives you perspective. It hands you back control. Saying less also makes you more present. It forces you to listen, really listen. Not to fire back, not to win, but to understand. and something wild happens. The other person lowers their guard. They feel you're not fighting, you're paying attention, and you change too. By not talking, you start thinking clearer. Your words stop being reactions and start being choices. Epictetus taught that we should first control our impulses, then our words. That there's no greater freedom than not needing to justify yourself. That freedom isn't loud, it's in your breath, in your gaze, in the calm you carry when you choose silence, even when you could dominate with a killer argument. Saying less isn't a vibe, it's a philosophy. It's a reminder that control starts with your tongue, that real respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And in a world full of noise, a man who masters silence becomes a presence that doesn't need an introduction. So when you feel the urge to fire back, pause, breathe. Ask yourself if it's necessary, if it's useful, if it's true to who you want to be. If the answer's no, keep your words. Because sometimes the greatest strength is saying nothing. And in that silent space you grow stronger, clearer, more you. 3. Control what you can control. There are moments when the world feels like it's gunning for you. Everything breaks at once. Plans fall apart, people let you down, opportunities vanish, the past stings, and the future looms heavy. In that chaos, one question cuts through. What now? Most people look for someone to blame. Others give up. But there's a kind of man who chooses differently. He turns inward. He knows the only power that can't be taken is the power to choose how he responds. You can't pick the hand life deals you, but you can decide how to play it. Epictetus called it the split between what's in your control and what isn't. A principle as simple as it is brutal. It puts the weight of your mind on your shoulders. Not what happens, but what you let it do to you. You can't stop people from letting you down, but you can choose not to let disappointment eat you alive. You can't rewrite the past, but you can keep it from defining you. And in that moment, when you stop wrestling with what you can't change and grab the wheel of what you can, you start taking back power. Picture a ship on the open sea. The captain doesn't control the wind or the waves, but he controls the rudder, the sails, the choice to keep sailing or not. A Stoic man lives like that captain. He doesn't pretend the storm's not there or kid himself with wishful thinking. He asks, where do I have real leverage? And from there, he moves. He decides. He builds. I once talked to a guy who lost his business after 20 years. He said the hardest part wasn't the money, it was the feeling of being powerless. Watching his sense of self crumble with every unpaid bill. For months he was stuck in anger, pointing fingers, drowning in what he couldn't fix. Then he stopped. He grabbed a notebook and made 2 columns. One for what he couldn't control, one for what he could. His routine, his mindset, his discipline, his willingness to start over. From that day, he didn't just rebuild a business, he built inner peace, because clarity gives you strength, and focus makes you untouchable. Marcus Aurelius, who ran an empire, knew not everything was up to him. He wrote to remind himself that happiness doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the quality of your thoughts. An emperor who could command armies couldn't command fate, yet his real power was in how he responded. By not whining, by not quitting, by staying steady in his core while the world spun out of control. Controlling what you can doesn't mean making everything perfect. It means taking the helm no matter the storm. It means when everything's shaking, you choose what stays solid inside you. Your calm, your purpose, your deliberate action. It means living from your roots, not your reactions. If you ever feel like you've lost your way, stop, breathe. Look hard at what you're trying to control and let go of what's not yours. Then pour all your energy into what you can move, no matter how small it seems. Because when you choose with clarity where to put your strength, every action becomes cleaner, sturdier, yours. That's what keeps a man from breaking even when the world falls apart. Not his luck, not his circumstances, but his relentless choice to return to what matters. Because that's where real transformation begins. Not out there, not tomorrow, but now. In what you choose to think, in how you choose to respond, in who you choose to be when no one else gets a say. 4. Focus on what makes you grow. Maybe you've been there. A conversation ends, but you keep replaying it in your head for days. A mistake from months ago still keeps you up at night. Someone hurt you, and even though they're long gone, the wound's still raw. Not because of what happened, but because you keep feeding it. Your mind's like fertile soil. it grows whatever you plant. If you sow pain, guilt, or resentment, don't expect to harvest peace. The problem isn't remembering, it's staying stuck there, in that moment, in that thought, looping like a broken record. Sometimes, without realizing it, you turn your mind into a prison, and you're holding the key. But you're not doomed to stay trapped, because what you think isn't a life sentence. It's a choice. This isn't about ignoring the past or pretending everything's fine. It's about redirecting your attention over and over to what builds you up, what makes you stronger. A man who keeps looking back doesn't move forward, no matter how fast he's running. It doesn't matter how hard you try if your focus is on what you can't change. But when you choose to look where there's light, something opens inside you. Not loudly, not instantly, but it opens. And that's where real growth starts. Marcus Aurelius, in the middle of wars, betrayals, and illness, wrote in his quiet nights that the soul grows stronger by focusing only on what's essential. On what life demands of you today, not plus, not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. Because the present, flawed as it is the only place you can act. Your attention is the bridge between who you are and who you could become. Every time you catch your mind wandering and pull it back to now, you're flexing that invisible muscle called self-discipline. Think about any day of your life. You've had thousands of thoughts, some fleeting, some heavy, but only a few shaped your actions. Only a few stole your energy. The trick isn't to stop them, it's to stop feeding them. To do that, you need to come back. Back to your breath, back to your body, back to what actually matters. The guy once commented on a Stoic video I saw, "Every time I start moving forward, my mind drags me back to the same memory, to the same person who hurt me, and I lose hours there, like it's still happening." I got it. We've all been there. But the key isn't to run from the thought. It's time to face it, acknowledge it. Then, with resolve, decide it doesn't get any more of your space today. Even if it's just for an hour, send your energy towards something that pushes you forward. The Stoics didn't talk about bottling things up. They talked about transforming. Taking that emotion, anchoring you down, and using it as a signal of what you still need to release. That transformation starts with a quiet choice, what you give your attention to. Every time you choose to focus on what adds value, reading, training, building, you're telling the world and yourself, I'm not wasting another day on what I can't change. You can't control every thought that pops into your head, but you can decide which ones stick around. And that decision, made day after day, becomes your character, your direction, your strength. A strength that doesn't shout, but it shows in how you look, how you move, how you choose, in how you keep pushing forward, quietly, while others stay stuck in their own storms. Focusing isn't a gift, it's a skill. And like any skill, it gets sharper with practice. So when your mind tries to pull you back to pain, to the past, to chaos, don't fight it. Don't follow it. Breathe, acknowledge, and come back. Because where you place your attention, your life grows. 5. Accept what is. If you're pained by something external, the pain isn't from the thing itself, it's from your perception of it. And you have the power to change that perception. Marcus Aurelius. Most men don't crumble under the load. They crumble from fighting it. They want life to be different. They want people not to let them down. They want the past to stop hurting. They want things to go as planned. But they didn't. And the more they wrestle with that reality, the more they wear themselves out. The more they break inside. Because it's not the weight that crushes you. It's how you carry it. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's not sitting back. It's stopping the fight against what's already done. It's looking square at the loss, the mistake, the betrayal, and deciding they won't define you, that you won't build who you are on what went wrong. Because as long as you keep wishing things were how you wanted, you're chained to a fantasy. But when you accept, you breathe. And from that new calm, you can pick a new path. A guy emailed me a while back. He said he'd spent years chasing his dad's approval, tried to be the perfect son, the hotshot professional, the tough guy. But nothing was ever enough. Then his dad passed away. The loss was brutal, but worse was the unresolved weight, the years he spent trying to be seen, accepted, valued. Then he read Epictetus and got it. Freedom starts when you stop begging for permission to be you. Living for someone else's nod is living in shackles, even if they're invisible. That day, he started talking to himself with respect, not because his dad gave it to him, but because he decided he didn't need it anymore. The Stoics taught that we can't control how the world sees us, but we can control how we see ourselves. Everyone's filtering reality through their own scars, beliefs, and fears. So if someone shuts you out, it doesn't mean you're worthless. It means they couldn't see your worth. But you can. You have to. Because if you don't, no one else will. Acceptance is also about dropping the guilt. That inner voice droning on about what you should have done, could have avoided, what you lost. The past can't be rewritten. It can only be understood and used as raw material to build. When you accept something's over, you can start again. Not from nothing, but from experience. Resilience isn't just enduring. It's learning. It's growing with every fall. Not with anger, with purpose. Not in a rush, with direction. Because every hit that doesn't break you reveals you. It shows what you can hold, what you can leave behind. And yeah, loneliness comes with it. When you stop living for approval, some people drift away. You don't fit their mold anymore. You're not easy to handle. But that's part of your freedom too. Being alone as your true self beats being surrounded but cut off from who you are. So next time something doesn't go your way, don't ask, why me? Ask, what can I do now with what I've got? Don't wait for life to line up before you start living. Start now, with what's here, with who you are, with what you know today. And every time you do, you'll feel something shift inside. Not noise, not hype, something deeper, a root, a strength that doesn't come from the outside, but from accepting finally that you don't need to be anyone else. You just need to be fully you. Even when it hurts, even when it's hard, because in that acceptance, your real transformation begins. 6. Embrace silence for clarity. There's a noise you can't hear, but it wears you down. It's not from the street, your phone, or other people. It's from inside, from a mind overloaded, chasing everything, trying to fix, solve, respond. We're surrounded by stimulation, opinions, comparisons, demands. From the second you wake up to the moment you crash, there's a constant push. Do more, know more, be more. And in that barrage, what you lose isn't time, it's direction. Without silence, everything blurs together. And when everything feels the same, nothing really matters. But silence isn't emptiness, it's a shelter. The only place you can hear what you actually think, what you actually feel, what you actually want. Maybe you've been walking a path you didn't choose, chasing goals that aren't yours, running after wins that don't fill you up, because you never stopped to ask if they were really yours. Silence forces you to, not with force, with clarity. Because when the outside world quiets down, what's left is who you are. A guy who watched my videos every day told me he used to pack his schedule tight, couldn't stand downtime, not even 10 minutes of nothing. He said if he wasn't busy, he felt worthless. But one day, in the middle of a panic attack, he forced himself to sit. No music, no phone, no one. 5 minutes, just 5. And in those 5 minutes he cried, not from sadness, from truth. He realized how much he'd been running, how much noise he'd used to drown out what he needed to face. Now, every morning starts with silence. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because that's where he found answers no book or advice could give. The Stoics didn't shy away from silence, they leaned into it. Marcus Aurelius wrote at night alone, not to show off, but to hear himself. To sort his mind before making choices that shaped an empire. He knew a noisy mind isn't a free mind, it's trapped in the clutter of what doesn't matter. Epictetus taught that the wise don't speak out of habit, but out of need. And what's left unsaid often says more than any speech. Silence lets you see. See what's worth your time and what's just a distraction. See who you are without the world's eyes on you. See your habits, your fears, your deepest wants. But it takes guts. Because silence also confronts you. It shows you hard truths. It reminds you of what you've been dodging. But that's where change happens. Not in comfort, but in the uneasy space where you stop running. If you're lost, don't chase more noise. Chase more silence. Turn off the clutter. Shut your mouth for a second, not because you've got nothing to say, but because you need to hear yourself first. You need to reconnect with what matters. And that's not out there. It's not in the next goal or the next answer. It's in that quiet point where everything stops, and you finally meet yourself. The world won't hush for you. There'll always be more news, more demands, more voices. But you can choose not to tune into all of them. you can create a pause, a gap, a sacred space where you're you again, not what's expected, not what's copied, but what you are. Because only a man who can be quiet can truly listen. And only someone who listens to what matters can live with purpose. Silence isn't weakness, it's a mark of inner control, of mental clarity, of real power. 7. Talk less, think more. Most guys don't get in trouble for what they don't say. They get in trouble for what they say without thinking. A word spit out in anger, an opinion tossed without care, a response fired off on impulse. And that's where the damage starts. Not always out there, but inside. Because every time you speak without awareness, you drift a little further from yourself. In a world where everyone's scrambling to be heard, the man who knows when to stay quiet stands out. Think of your mind as a blade. Every word you speak is a swing. If you don't train that blade, it'll cut you deeper than anyone else. But if you learn when to swing, when to sheath it, when to sharpen it in silence, you become hard to rattle. Talking less doesn't mean you're worth less. It means you've got more direction, more control, more clarity. Because not every thought needs to be voiced. Not every feeling needs to be aired. Not every comment deserves your response. A guy reached out after a family blow-up. He said he lost it over something small, but the anger had been building for weeks. From words he didn't say when he should have. From emotions he ignored. From judgments he threw like daggers. When it was over, he felt empty. Because deep down, he knew those words weren't his truth, just echoes of the inner mess he didn't catch in time. So he started a rule: pause before answering. Even if it's 2 seconds, even if it feels like nothing, those seconds changed how he lives. Because they gave him room to choose, to think, to respond calmly. The Stoics leaned hard into the power of the pause. Epictetus said we're not thrown off by events, but by how we interpret them. And that interpretation usually kicks in before you open your mouth. So the guy who masters that tiny gap between trigger and response doesn't just win arguments, he shapes his character, his path, his energy. In a heated moment, silence can be your sharpest defense, not because you're out of ammo, but because you know not every fight's worth your fire. In a big conversation, a pause can give your words more weight than any volume. Because what's said without rush, without anxiety, without needing to win, lands differently. Speaking with intention is an art, and like any art, it takes practice, awareness, guts to not get sucked into the noise. Today, we're bombarded with prompts to react, to post, to weigh in, to prove something. But showing restraint isn't bottling up, it's choosing where your words come from ego or from the center, from hurt or from wisdom, from needing to be heard or from the freedom of not needing anyone's thumbs up. That's what separates a reactive man from a grounded one. You won't always control what you feel, but you can control how you express it. You can learn to watch your thoughts without letting them speak for you. You can train yourself to pause, to breathe before you talk, to wait for the right moment. Because the man who masters his words doesn't just communicate better, he respects himself more. And a man who respects himself gets respect. So next time you feel the itch to fire back, stop. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong. Not because you're scared, but because you're focused. Because talking less isn't holding back, it's letting go of what doesn't need to be said. And that, in times like these, is a quiet kind of power few ever master. You can be one of them. Real strength isn't about lifting heavier weights or yelling louder. It's forged in silence, in the moments you choose to think before you react, in the days you decide to zero in on what you can control. Every time you speak with purpose or stay quiet with wisdom. Today, we covered 3 pillars that reshape a man. Think less, talk less, focus more. And it's not some far-off ideal. It's a daily practice, a way of living that's built with every choice, every conscious breath, every thought you observe, without letting it become your truth. When you realize your thoughts don't define you, that your silence is strength, and that your focus shapes your path, something shifts. Not out there, in here. You stop needing to prove your worth to the world, because you carry it, because you remind yourself, because you've learned that peace, discipline, and clarity aren't for the lucky few. They're skills you build, sharpen, and defend. So start today. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Use what you've got. Breathe. Pause. Choose. And if you ever waver, come back to this video. Let every word here be a nudge. Your mind doesn't run you unless you let it. Your voice doesn't lose value by staying quiet, and your focus is the most powerful tool you've got. If any of this hits home, drop it in the comments. Where do you need more silence? What are you choosing to let go of? Your story might just spark another guy to find himself again.